Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining today's presentation of the Michigan Education Savings Program. This is a recorded version from December 11th, 2024. So if you're listening to this, your employer offers Michigan Education Savings Program as an employee benefit. And in this presentation, we'll be talking a little bit more about that. As an introduction, my name is John Scott. I'm a tuition financing consultant here at MESP. My background is in financial education, but I do also have licenses in securities, so investment products as well. So I do have a solid background in that direction as well. I am from the state of Michigan, so I was born and raised here, spent almost all my years here, was briefly out the state for a while, but back and happy to be presenting this program. I am a Central Michigan graduate as well, so born and raised and educated here in Michigan. In my role, I often talk to families about saving for higher education. I also talk to employers like your own about adding this as a benefit and how it can ultimately increase our reach and help more people have enough money, or at least more money than they would have, to spend on college or community college or trade or vocational schools. I also work with financial advisors as well to try to get them to introduce this program, but also help them better serve their clients as well who are enrolled in MESP. So as an agenda today, we'll first talk about what is a 529. So what do those three numbers mean? Next, we'll go into some ideas about paying for college, and then also what does the college tuition landscape look like today? Next, we'll talk specifically about MESP and some of the benefits that make this program attractive. And then you can hopefully make the decision whether MESP is right for you. Next, we'll talk about how to open an account. Spoiler alert, it's pretty easy. So we'll talk about the things you need to open an account and how that process works. And then usually at the end, I would have questions. This is a recording, so unfortunately, I cannot answer questions. But if you do have questions, I'll provide my contact information at the end of this. So please feel free to reach out if you have anything that you'd like clarification on. So what is a 529 plan? So 529 is a tax code similar to 401k or 403b. So think of it as a tax advantage way to save for higher education. So specifically 529 is advantage towards post-secondary education. So some of the good parts about 529s is that almost every state has a plan. Wyoming is the only state that doesn't have any sort of 529 plan. And actually, these come in three main types. So the first is going to be a direct sold plan, which is what MESP is. Direct sold basically means it goes directly to you, the consumer. The next type of plan is going to be in Michigan, we call it the Michigan Advisor Plan, but it's an advisor sold plan. Basically, you'll need a financial advisor to open up this plan and they'll manage the investments on your behalf. This one does charge a commission for that advisor. That's how they make money. MESP and direct sold plans do not have commissions. So think of it as paying for the expertise that you would get from a financial advisor. The last type of plan we have in the state of Michigan, and the last that we'll be talking about as far as types of plans, would be the Michigan Educational Trust. So this is a tuition and fees program, meaning that you're buying credits at today's prices that pay for tuition and fees at universities, specifically indexed to universities in the state of Michigan. So it doesn't cover things like room and board, tuition, books and supplies like MESP or the Michigan Advisor Plan would. But the benefit of locking in tuition at today's prices means that you can avoid the 5% tuition inflation that you would see typically. So typically tuition rises 5% per year. Locking in today's prices will help you avoid that tuition increase depending on how many credits you buy. So today, like I said, we're only talking about MESP, so I can only answer specific questions about that. If you have questions about the Michigan Advisor Program, please go through your financial advisor. For the Michigan Educational Trust, that's run by the Treasury Department for the state of Michigan, so they have more information about that. And you can usually find more information by going onto the michigan.gov website for those or for that plan. So as far as the tax advantages, when we talk about, this being a tax advantage plan, what it looks like first of the triple tax advantage is going to be that this account is tax deferred. This means that you don't pay taxes while you have money in this account. So once you put the money in, it goes in post-tax, but while it's in the 529 account, it's not being taxed. Luckily, that means you don't have to worry about taxes for one, but also allows your gains through investments to compound over time. The second tax advantage is going to be that you don't have to pay taxes on withdrawals if they're used for qualified purposes. So we call these qualified higher educational expenses, but these are things like room and board, tuition, they can be books and supplies. A lot of things, many of the things on the cost of attendance for school that the university or community college will list for you will qualify as qualified higher educational expenses. So you don't have to pay taxes on all those investment gains that you had since you invest the money, which is something that you would have to do in a regular brokerage account in most cases. That's the really big tax benefit that comes with 529 plans. The last tax advantage is going to be for Michigan residents specifically. So this is going to be a $5,000 tax deduction for those filing single and a $10,000 deduction for those married filing jointly. So this is deducted from your Michigan income and basically reduces your taxable amount. And this is something that you'll file on your own when it comes tax time. So when you're doing all your other taxes for the year, you would file this as well as part of a reduction in your Michigan income taxes. Any more questions on taxes, we usually refer you or usually suggest you go to a qualified tax preparer, but this plan is qualified for a tax deduction depending on how much you contribute and your eligibility as far as your filing status. So some other great things about this program is its flexibility and control. So the way the accounts work is that there's one account owner and there's one beneficiary. But the good news is that as the account owner, you maintain control over the account for as long as you'd like. So if you pick an individual account when opening it up, you are the account owner until you decide to change things. You can open these accounts at any age, as long as you're 18 or older, you can open an account. You can also name a beneficiary of any age as well. Another great benefit is that you can change beneficiaries. So let's say that you have one student that decides not to go to college, or maybe they get college paid for completely. You can change beneficiaries or transfer money from one account to the other account. So that's something that you can do, in the case that, maybe one child doesn't use all the money in their account. It's very flexible in that sense. These funds are also good at many different types of institutions. So they're good at community colleges, four-year universities. They're also good at many eligible trade schools and vocational schools as well. And even broader than that, these funds can be used outside of the country as well. So we're talking about universities in Canada, UK, Germany, France, Australia. Any school that accepts U.S. federal financial aid are eligible to use these funds at. So they're very flexible, can be used outside of the state, outside of the country. So don't think you're restricted on those lines. These, when we talk about a wide range of approved educational expenses, again, we're talking about things like room and board, tuition, books and supplies. So a lot of different things that you can use this money on. So don't think you're just locked into tuition. And also, we'll talk about tuition later, but don't forget that a lot of higher education these days is beyond just tuition. There are a lot of other prices and things that you'll have to pay for beyond just tuition, which makes this plan, very flexible in that sense as well. There's no income limits for giving to this plan as well. And all you really need, or all you do need, is going to be a social security number or a tax identification number to get started and open an account. Something, again, that we'll talk about a little later in this presentation. So what does it look like to actually contribute to a 529 plan such as MESP, and what does that growth look like over time? So in this slide, we provide a hypothetical example of what it may look like to invest in MESP with these kind of statistics as follows. So it's going to be a $5,000 lump sum contribution initially with $100 a month contribution from then on, and then we're hypothetically estimating a 6% annual return. Now, these numbers can be different, especially as far as annual return in terms of what investments you choose, but this is a kind of middle of the road estimate to kind of give you an idea of what it might look like to invest in a plan like MESP. So with those statistics, after 8 years, you're looking at you could have an earnings of, or you could have an amount of more than $20,000. For saving for an additional 4 years, so a total of 12 years, you could have more than $30,000 available to spend for higher education. And then saving 18 years can net you as much as more than $53,000 to save for higher education. So you can see that over time, these numbers can grow pretty large. And then you can also imagine in situations where maybe you had a better annual return, or maybe you put more money down over time as contributions, that this number could be bigger. So just an example of what investing in MESP over a certain period of time could look like for you. So speaking of contributions, how much can I contribute, or how would I contribute? So we do have 1 year limits. Those are going to be $18,000 for an individual and $36,000 for a couple. Now, these numbers are per beneficiary, so they're not total numbers. So, for example, if you had 10 grandchildren and you had $360,000 laying around, you could give $36,000 to each of them. There's no limit on how many beneficiaries you have, so you can open up as many accounts as you'd like for as many of your children or grandchildren as you'd like. You can also give more money through a process that is called a lump sum, or like what we like to call super funding. So with super funding, you can give up to $90,000 as an individual and $180,000 as a couple per beneficiary. These amounts are prorated on your taxes over a 5 year period. So basically, you're putting in a number for each period up until you get to the amount that you donated over a 5 year period on your taxes. For more information on how to do this, please talk to a qualified tax preparer just to make sure that you're meeting all the qualifications and that it's listed on your taxes correctly. So if this is something that's available to you, again, it is something that you can do, but please do talk to a qualified tax preparer. So as far as some of the other benefits about gifting to a 529 is that this account is not subject to a kiddie tax. So other gifting methods often have a kiddie tax that's applied after a certain amount of earnings are reached. This account does not. And then, as I mentioned earlier, we do see grandparents using this method because it can be used as an estate planning method. So basically, you can hand down money for grandchildren, and this is a college fund or education fund for them. So it's a great way, or a good way, or at least a way we see some grandparents start to, give back to later generations and provide for their education. Next, we'll talk about paying for college. The philosophy here at MESP is denoted in this triangle, or a pyramid, I should say. So at the bottom of this pyramid, you're going to see savings. So savings is the base of this pyramid because we want it to be the biggest part. Savings is money that when that tuition bill comes, or that room and board bill comes, it's money that you don't have to pay back. That's similar to money that's awarded. Again, this isn't money that's saved, but when it's awarded, it's applied to those expenses, and then it's paid off, and it's nothing that you don't have to worry about anymore. At the top of the pyramid, and the amount that's the smallest, is going to be loans. Loans is money that you have to pay back, and oftentimes accrues interest after you graduate. So keeping this number as small as possible will hopefully keep your college expenses or higher educational expenses as low as possible. So at MESP, that base of the triangle, those two categories at the bottom, savings and scholarships, grants, and work studies, we want to keep the largest. Hopefully, if we can pay for all of higher education that way. But at the top, and oftentimes it's possible you will need to borrow money to take out loans. But we really, as the philosophy goes, keep that amount as small as possible. Again, because that can add to the total amount that you're spending for higher education. And to kind of give a little bit more detail to what loans will look like over the lifetime of a student after they graduate, it's oftentimes the second longest payment that someone will have to pay. So if you think of a mortgage being 30 years, maybe you were lucky or really fortunate and you could pay off your mortgage in 15 years. That's not the case for me. But in the case, most people are going to be looking at a 30-year mortgage. 20 years is not that far behind. So again, this can often be the second longest loan that someone will have to pay over their lifetime. So keeping that amount as small as possible can reduce the overall spending on higher education and hopefully get that then graduate onto saving for retirement or saving for a house or something, something of that nature as they move along in life. So, switching gears a little bit, we're going to talk about the college tuition landscape out there. So, for community college in the state of Michigan, you're looking at around $4,000 per year. Now, Michigan did pass a bill that gives tuition-free community college to those with a community college in their area in the state of Michigan for the class of 2023 and after, high school class of 2023 and after. Now, please take note that tuition free does not mean free. There are still books and supplies and other things that need to be paid for, something that MESP can do with those qualified higher educational expenses. But if it is a need and there isn't a community college in your area or you don't go to the one in your area, it will cost around $4,000 in tuition for community college. For our four-year institutions, think the University of Michigan, Michigan State, you're looking at around $30,000 for Michigan State and then around $33,000 in tuition for University of Michigan. Central and Western Michigan universities, you're looking at around $28,000. The lowest that we have in the state of Michigan will be Saginaw Valley State at around $25,000 in tuition per year. For out of state, let's say we're talking about the University of Florida, you're looking at around $44,000 per year. So it's a little bit more expensive there. And then private college in the state of Michigan, for Albion College, you're looking at around $67,000 in tuition. Kalamazoo College, you're looking at around 70,000 plus. And then private out-of-state four-year colleges, so maybe Harvard College, if you have a student bright enough to go to the Ivy League, you're looking at around $80,000 in tuition. So considering those tuition amounts may factor into how much you save as well, but it's always a good idea to know what you're working with currently in the college funding landscape. So I know college can sound pretty expensive. Those numbers are pretty high. Harvard College at 80,000 sounds pretty expensive, but there is still a lot of benefit of going to college and higher educational opportunities. Some of the most obvious ones that stick out are going to be more opportunities and earning more on average. A lot of jobs still require a college degree, and college degrees may be a requirement for promotion or advancement as well. So a college degree and higher educational degrees often offer you, the ability to have those higher positions and higher earning positions over time. But higher education can also be a pathway to achieving personal goals or making lifelong friendships. So for me, I made a ton of friends in college. They're all over the country now. So, whenever I'm traveling to a major city, it seems like I know someone there that I have to visit. And I still talk to these friends all the time. So that was a very valuable experience. I also got to study abroad in Eastern Europe, and that was a fun time as a 19-year-old. I was a lot braver then than I am now. But it was a great experience, and meeting people from Eastern Europe when I'm now in the United States, it can be pretty cool to tell them that, yeah, I've been to Bosnia, or yeah, I've been to Serbia, and I've been to this place or that place, and they think it's pretty cool, and I think it's pretty cool to kind of talk to them about those places that they have been or their family is from there. So college and higher education can be a positive in a lot of ways. There is a cost to higher education, but there is a lot of benefit, and hopefully that experience will better prepare them for the world and also leave them with a lot of lasting memories and relationships, long after they graduate. So is MESP right for my family? So we're going to be talking specifically about MESP and some of the benefits it provides. So for a lot of families, MESP has been the right choice. So this is Michigan's direct sold program. We just celebrated our 24th birthday a couple weeks ago. We started in the year 2000, and this is 2024. So 24 years, we're going into year 25, which is a big deal. But currently, MESP holds more than 8 billion in assets and has more than 300,000 accounts. Over the lifetime of this program, we've held more than more than a million accounts. and held more than $34 billion as a historical lifetime for the historical lifetime of this program. So a lot of families have chosen MESP to help afford sending their child or then young adult off to their higher education opportunity. So part of the reasons or benefits of the Michigan Education Program are going to be the 22 different investment options. Now, I know that sounds intimidating, but 10 of these are going to be our enrollment year options. Enrollment year options are similar to target date funds. So think of them similar to retirement. Let's say you're retiring in 2050 and you put that in as your selection. Uh, Enrollment years work similar in the fact that they start off with a higher percentage of equity, so stocks, ownership in companies, because that is a riskier asset, but it also has the potential for the most gains. So it starts off with stocks, and then as time goes on, when you're in an enrollment year portfolio, as that year gets closer to the time they go off to school, when they enroll in higher education, that's going to get the portfolio is going to get more conservative. So it's going to reduce that stock amount and it's going to add more bonds and more capital preservation options to hold on and lock in the gains that you already have and hopefully avoid large losses if the market were to have a really bad year. So enrollment year is sort of the hands-off option. Obviously, we want you to keep checking your investments and taking a look at them. But this portfolio or these portfolios are meant to do the work for you. They de-risk as you get close to a year that that beneficiary is going off to their higher education opportunity. For more hands-on investors, we do have multi-fund and single fund options. So multi-fund are portfolios that are set up with certain amounts of assets in them, so certain distributions of equity. So it can be U.S. stocks, some international stocks, some real estate. They'll have different mixes of assets in them that you can choose from. Some of these are aggressive, others are moderate, and then some are conservative. So you can choose based on how aggressive you want to be, which one of those levels you want to go with. And then we also have our single fund options, which are a broken out version of multi-funds. So some of the options that are available as portfolios or parts of portfolios and multi-funds are broken out into their own category in the single fund category, and you can assign certain percentages to these different asset classes as you wish. So with our multi-fund and single fund options, again, these are more hands-on, meaning that these are not de-risking over time. They're staying roughly at the same amount of risk. So as that beneficiary gets closer to college, they're not naturally becoming less or more conservative to protect the gain. So if you are in one of those portfolios, it could make sense to check them more often. You're allowed 2 investment changes per calendar year. So from January 1st to December 31st, you can change your previous investments twice. Any new money coming in isn't considered a change, so you can allocate those differently. So something to keep in mind, again, if you're looking at multi-fund and single fund, is that you will have to change those if you want to change your risk level as that beneficiary gets closer to college. So our guaranteed investment option is also called capital preservation. So this is a guaranteed 1 to 3% return, and that return is determined on January 1st. So for year 2024, it was a 3% return. For January 1st, 2025, we'll get a new number, but it will stay at that number for that whole calendar year period. This guaranteed option is part of some of the portfolios that you see in multi-fund and enrollment year. It really kicks in the most in the in-school option. So when that beneficiary goes in school and you choose the in-school option, if you choose the in-school option, capital preservation will be most of that portfolio. But you can always choose it individually on its own if you want to allocate some of your portfolio to capital preservation, even if you're not in an in-school option or enrollment year options. Also to keep note is that you can do percentages of pretty much unlimited percentages of each of these portfolios. So you can be 25% in the enrollment year, 25% in a multi-fund, 25% in a mixture of single funds, or whatever combination equals up to 100%. So that's up to you to decide. You don't have to just stick with one option. You have a lot of flexibility there with these investment options. Another thing I'll mention with investment options, if you need any extra explanation, again, I'll provide my contact information at the end. I can't give recommendations, but I can help explain these portfolios, and maybe that can help you make a choice on what investment options you'd like. So another benefit of the Michigan Education Savings Program is that our fees are half the national average. So fees are money that MESP charges to hold your investments, but these again are half the national average, which means more of the money that you put into MESP will be available to pay for your higher education or your child or grandchild's higher educational opportunity when the time comes. So less of your money going to fees than they would if our plan was at the national average of fees for direct sold plans. So if you already have a 529 plan, or maybe you have money in a Coverdell, you can roll that into MESP. That can sometimes, unfortunately, be an involved process, just depending on where you're coming from. Some plans are harder to roll out of than others. So if you need help with that, I can be of assistance. I can help you do that rollover and see what we need to do, or what forms you'll need to fill out, what actions you'll need to take to get that money rolled over into MESP. So don't fear if you kind of dread that rollover experience. As someone who rolled over a number of 401ks, I know that can be pretty difficult too. But I think it would have been really helpful to have somebody like myself, an expert in the program, to help me roll money into my 401k. Fortunately, don't have that, but for MESP, you do. So please feel free to contact me if you need help doing that. So when we talk about contributing specifically to MESP, there's a variety of methods. So you can do checking or savings accounts, electronic transfers from those accounts. You can do that on a one-time basis, or you can do that on a recurring basis. We do have payroll direct deposit. When you open up your MESP account, you can go to a payroll option and then set up how much you would want to give. And then from there, you would go to your employer and then denote how much you would like to, or to basically give that form to them, and they will help you set up that payroll option. Or if you have self-managed payroll, meaning that you put in your own payroll information, you can take that form and enter that information yourself. If you are part of, you listening to this, you are part of the Workplace Savings Partnership. So your employer should have the availability for you to do that payroll direct deposit. If you have any questions, please ask your HR department or payroll and benefits specialist. So we also do allow contributions via check as well. That's mailed into our MESP mailing address. So if you'd like to go good old-fashioned check, that's still an option as well. So if you're not the one giving, or maybe you're not the account owner, you can still give to an MESP account. The platform UGift allows that account owner to send you out that UGift code when you open an account. As the account owner, you'll get a UGift code. You send that UGift code out, and that person with your code can log on to ugift.com, put in their banking information, and contribute to that MESP account. So if you have friends and family, maybe tell them instead of toys this time, you'd like to have some money funnel into that college savings account, you can give out that UGift code and they can do that. And they could also do that on a reoccurring basis. So say it's a grandparent a brother or sister of yours who wants to give to your child or grandchild's MESP account, you can do that as well, and they can do that through UGift. And if they're eligible, they may be able to take a tax deduction on the amount that they give as well. So that's a possibility too if they're Michigan residents and eligible for a tax deduction. You do not have to be the account owner to receive tax benefits for giving to MESP. So ReadySave 529 is our mobile app. You can download it on your phone, and that will allow you access to look at your MESP account, if you're on the go or you only have access to to a mobile phone. You Promise is a platform. Think of it similar to a cashback card. It will give you contributions if you meet certain spending habits. So if you buy certain goods or items, it can reward you with contributions into your MESP account. So if that's something you are interested in, You Promise has the ability for you to do that. So we're going to sound a little bit like a broken record, but I want to go back to the tax advantages of MESP. So first, it's going to be that tax deferred growth. Again, remember that money that's in MESP while it's there is not taxed if it's sitting in an account, not being moved out. And even if you move out the money, it can potentially be done tax free if you're spending it on qualified higher educational expenses. So if you're meeting those qualified expenses, you can take out that money and not worry about any taxes. And the last thing is going to be that Michigan income tax deduction. So again, if you're a Michigan resident, depending on the amount you contribute, and then whether you're married or filing jointly, you can deduct up to $10,000 filing jointly, and then or $5,000 filing single from your Michigan income taxes. That's a total amount. So it's not per beneficiary like the gifting amounts. But again, you can take that $10,000 deduction, married filing jointly each year, or that $5,000 deduction if you're filing single each calendar year. And that's for contributions that are made from January 1st to December 31st. So it goes by calendar year. So this month, when we flip over to next month, January 1st, all those contributions will count in tax year 2025 for any tax deductions. So you listen to this presentation so far, you've liked what you heard, and you want to know, how do I open up an account? Well, I do have the answer, luckily. So our website is misaves.com. You can log on there and open an account. I'll have a picture of the homepage in just a second. But that is our website where you'll go to open the account. If you have any questions on opening an account, or even after you open an account, and you want to ask questions, you can go to misaves.com/appointments, where you can schedule an appointment with myself or my colleague Jennifer. We can answer any questions that you have, or maybe direct you to resources that will help you if it's a question, maybe like a tax question we can't answer, or but you want to know more about, or a certain question. We can at least field your question and see if we can give you a direct answer. If not, we might just refer you to that qualified tax preparer. But in any case, please feel free to let us know or schedule an appointment with us if you need help. So this is a picture of the website. On the left side here, you're going to see an image of our homepage. If you look closely in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a green button that says open an account. That is where you open an account. And then on the right image, you'll see a picture of the appointment page. You'll see my colleague Jenny there. My name is right under hers as well, and both of us are available to schedule appointments. So a little bit more about our website. We do have a college planning cost calculator online. So if you want to estimate how much college will cost in, whether it's 5 years or 10 years, that college cost calculator gives you an estimation of what college will cost. And then you could also plan on how much you want to save, or what percentage of college you want to have funded by saving through MESP. You could also see more information on our investment options online. If you want to see what's in the portfolio or what the returns have been, you could do that as well. Remember that this is an online account, so you can log in at any time and check your account, make any changes, or just, if you're late night wondering how much is in your MESP account, you can go ahead and log in and do that as well from the misaves.com website. So as a recap of some of the things we talked about today, we talked extensively about the tax advantages. Again, there are many different contribution levels that you can do. It's $25 to open an account initially, but from there, you can give up to those 1-year limits, so those super funding limits, or you can never give again. There's no recurring amount that you have to put in each year to do this plan. So just keep that in mind, that there are, this is a pretty flexible plan as far as contributions go. Again, it's also easy to set up and start saving. Low investment expenses compared to the national average as well. Flexibility and control. You could transfer account ownership. You can change beneficiaries or transfer money between beneficiaries. So a lot of flexibility there. And then also something I didn't mention, but hopefully just as important for a lot of you, is going to be financial aid. So 529 accounts, including MESP, are seen as 5.64% of assets for parents. So if you're a parent and you're applying for financial aid, or you're a student and you are applying for financial aid, they're going to see money saved in a parent-opened MESP account at 5.64%. So that means if you had $100,000 saved for college, that FAFSA is only going to see, so federal financial aid is only going to see that as $5,640 saved for higher education. So when today, at least in the state of Michigan, without financial aid, college will cost in excess of $100,000. $5,640 is not even 5% of what college will cost. So for most people, that probably won't be a big change in the financial aid package. Also, there, like I mentioned before, there are a variety of contribution methods available. You can do checking or savings account, payroll, direct deposit, and check as well. So overall, a lot of benefits for MESP. That is the end of the presentation portion of this recording. So I want to thank you for joining me. My name is John Scott again. My number is there, and my email is there as well. Generally, the best way to reach me is via email or going to that appointment link that I showed you a little earlier. Those two methods, I'm not always at my phone, or maybe I'm doing a presentation like this one, so I'm not always able to get to my phone right away. But if you give me an email, I will give you an email back, or if you schedule an appointment, that means I was free during that time, and I will be at that appointment to help you with any questions that you have. The last thing I'd ask from you is just to take a look at this legal disclosure. This is basically mentioning that everything I talked about today is on the MESP website under our program document. So if you want to review that in more detail, please log on to misaves.com and then search for the program document, and it will have the full terms and conditions of MESP there as well. So other than that, I want to say thank you for joining this presentation. If you have questions, please, again, look at my contact information, as well as you can talk to your HR professional or payroll and benefits specialist. They may be able to answer the question, or if not, they can maybe refer that question to me as well. So again, thank you for joining me today, and hopefully I can see some more accounts pop up on our MESP website pretty soon. Thank you.